Any mea culpas or apologies from the last pod we need to issue to anybody?
I need to issue an apology.
Okay.
Actually, thank
All
you,
right,
Kyle.
let's start out with that. Yeah.
Sorry, an apology.
A buddy of mine from the gym.
Wait, are you gonna just intro or are you?
No, we're just mea culpa.
Yeah. Wait, what does that
Welcome
mean?
to the podcast.
What does that mean?
It's an apology or a bad on
Okay.
my bad sort of thing.
Yeah, well, this is my bad because I got called out on it from a buddy of mine from the gym. So I guess he was listening to one of the episodes where I went through kind of like my morning routine, and I said, I wake up at about 4:30 and get myself ready, go to the gym, and I get there at 5 o'clock. And he said as soon as I said I get there at 5 a.m., he stopped. He wanted to turn the podcast off because it was a lie. And he's totally right.
Oh, he called you.
Because I am habitually late.
No, not Lance.
There's no way.
Yes,
There's
I
no
am.
way Lance
I
is
am.
late.
So he's absolutely right. They call me 5:05 at the gym because I'm always there at 5 minutes after. So you can always count on that. I'm consistent if nothing else, but I had to make amends to that. And my buddy Phil from the gym, that he's correct. It's not 5 o'clock. It's 5:05 because I'm always late.
Well, Lance, a little known secret is when you have 3 kids, you're just you get that automatic pass everywhere you go.
You do, but they're technically asleep when I'm getting ready for the gym, so I don't have
true.
that excuse.
You can still use
I usually
it.
just get stuck on the bathroom.
use it.
That's
Yeah.
If you brushed your teeth
Full
before
disclosure.
going to the gym, it would make more sense that you were late.
Yeah.
But since you don't even brush your teeth, it doesn't make
This is
sense.
true.
And it's the old saying, if you're always 5 minutes late, then you could really be on time because all you'd have to do is move your schedule 5 minutes. But hey, everybody has their thing.
Well, my boss says if you're on time, you're late. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a stupid saying.
It is a stupid saying, actually.
Yeah.
All right, welcome in, everybody.
Yeah.
In any
Good to be
event.
here.
So, special episode today. We're joined by a special guest who we'll intro here in a second. But I had to look up our previous episodes. We haven't had a guest on. Well, actually, let's take a little. Let's do a little guess here. When's the last time we had a guest? Like how long? How long has it been?
Well, I looked it up,
Oh, well.
Okay, you're
so
right.
I'm gonna
Recuse
remove
yourself.
myself from
Yeah.
this.
What do you think, Kyle? Adam?
I'm
It's
gonna
got
go.
to be 2
Yeah, I was
years.
gonna say 2 years ago. Yeah,
Who would that
it was
get?
mid 21.
That would have been.
It was about 2.5 years.
Ooh.
It was Scott Batson with Get
Yeah,
Strong
right.
Ministries.
Yeah.
That was the last one that I saw. So I don't know why
Uh,
we went away from having guests on.
Well,
Yeah.
if I recall, I've been asking for this guest for about 2.5 years. So
Well-
nobody said no.
Listen. We had to vet him out. It was a very deep
was a
vetting
long
process.
vetting process.
Yeah.
That's
He came
true.
back clear, so yeah,
That's
we're
true.
having him on.
Well, I'm a little bit nervous because I'm like, is this interviewing like riding a bike?
Ooh,
We're getting ready to find out.
we could smack the wall. We don't know. Yeah, let's see. Let's find out. Let's see if we still got our chops.
Well, do we want to do a little warm up session here first before we introduce our?
I think we should introduce him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
by
we
all
just
means.
warmed up.
Well, let's let
we're-
Adam.
we're-
Let's
we're
let
warm?
Adam. Adam's been
Hey, if
working
we're
this
warm,
thing
let's
for
go.
2.5 years, so let's let him introduce our
go,
guest. Yeah.
Pressure's on. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we are in the presence of royalty right now. Our guest is a man of many talents. He is a father of 2. He's a husband of 1, as far as we know. A fellow camper. He's why is my audio not coming through? It's not as loud
I'm
as
hearing
it
it.
was. Okay. He's a fellow camper. He's a pastor. And he's also a good friend, Mr. Josh. Is it Wooten or Woosley? I'm not sure which one.
Wooten.
It is. Wooten, Mr. Josh Wooten.
No,
Welcome in, Mr. Wooten.
Oh, I'm happy to be here. 2.5 years?
Yes.
I just
Yeah.
found out last
Yes.
week.
Yeah.
You guys don't have much of a vetting process if I'm sitting in this chair right now.
Well, we got.
and I do know that you've had Travis Howe and Chet Roberts on the pod.
Yes.
So let's be real.
Yeah.
How high is the bar really?
You know, when you get agents involved booking these things, it just bogs it down.
They do.
Big
They do.
time.
Red tape.
My rider, I don't see anything that I put on it. We'll talk about that afterwards.
Yeah, we'll get
That's
that.
all
yeah.
right. We'll
Have
get
your
the green
team talk to our
M&Ms.
team. Yeah.
No, I am stoked to be on here with you guys. I've actually been listening on and off for quite a while, and did happen to tune into last week's episode. And one of the
Very sorry about that.
one of the things he said, he's a pastor. I'm like, I hope I'm going to be a pastor after this podcast. I want the kids coming in my room.
This might be a limited release.
We'll try to keep the swear words to a minimum on this episode. Kyle, looking at you.
Okay. All right.
Keep that 7-second delay handy over there, Ray.
You got it.
We can't promise anything. As you may have already noticed, we don't do a lot of planning for episodes. Did we talk to you really about anything before you sat down?
Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah,
No, this
right.
is
So, we'll try to keep it in bounds.
Yeah. It's normal episode for us. So, how do you want to open this thing up? You want to get him warmed up with a little rapid fire stuff?
Josh, would you rather go on a solo rapid fire 2-minute drill, or would you rather do a little group discussion?
I'm good either way. Let's go group discussion.
All right,
I
let's
think
open
we
up.
should.
Yeah, let's do that.
Perfect.
You got questions for me, or are we just
he's
going to
got
talk
questions.
about whatever?
Well,
I think
hold on.
I
We'll
wanna
let Adam will cut this part out here. So
Would you rather go rapid fire?
No.
Okay.
I like the group discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody involved early and often.
And take your time. Adam's gonna call this out. Take your
Of
time
course.
on your thoughts. If you have,
Hey, by the way,
if you have to
remember,
think.
remember we were talking about like we're gonna start our YouTube. Like this would be part of the stuff I couldn't cut out.
Oh, we're not YouTubing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'd
I
be
might
performing
be.
better.
I might be.
All right, group discussion. So I've
All right.
been brainstorming this off and on for a little while.
Do
So
we have
I
a
wanna-
working title for this?
I think it can be better, but
Okay.
I've come up with a name. It's just called React.
All right.
Okay, so
How long did it take you to come up with that name?
Did you copyright?
this afternoon
Yeah.
on the
Is
way
it
over,
Is it an acronym
I like
for
it.
something?
Yeah.
I want you guys to react.
Now that
so,
I would be impressed with. Okay, I'm ready.
as I mentioned earlier, not a lot of playing, so I haven't let anybody in the room in on this game, and exactly what's going to happen. Josh, don't feel nervous because everybody else is just as nervous.
Yeah.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw out a topic. You have no idea what it's coming, and I want you guys to react to it, whatever comes to your mind. But I would say, obviously, sometimes we can have the same opinion. I want you to make an effort to maybe take the other side
All
if
right.
you hear it going one way.
Okay.
Everybody understand?
Yeah, love it.
And we're just going to go through a couple topics. I might give it 30 seconds. I might give it a minute. I might give it 2. I don't know. When I feel like it's kind of dying off, I'm going to change topics.
All right, case closed when you close it.
It's either going to be great or it's going to crash and burn.
All right.
And we'll blame it on Josh.
Either
And
way
we'll
would
do
be
it
funny.
again.
Yeah, it's his fault. Yeah.
Let's go.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Got broad shoulders.
Are y'all ready?
Yes.
React.
Yes.
Skinny jeans for men.
I'm all right with it. What was I not supposed to say?
Okay.
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. To
I can honestly say I accidentally bought a pair of skinny jeans. Yeah,
I don't know why.
and I have the said skinny jeans that I've worn a couple times, and I just didn't feel comfortable in it.
I want to see Kyle's and
Yeah.
I do.
I've got them. I'll suit up. I'll
Can
suit
we
up
make
for it.
that happen for the next
Yes.
episode?
They're now. I don't know if they're the true blue skinny. They're slim. I thought I was buying the athletic. Have you heard of the athletic taper, which I like?
The stretchy jeans.
Yeah,
that
they-
you gotta get.
Yeah.
These are taut. I mean, I've got chicken legs, but they're taut on my legs. So I am, as a wearer of slim/skinny jeans, I'm out on them. For men my age.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know you're of age when you start using words like my age.
Yes. I think
Kyle has embraced 40. I got to tell
Yeah,
you, man.
I
He's
think-
gone all in.
I still even I don't know, man. I'm not. You know, I came up with the Jinko jeans, so we went the complete. You know, the huge, like you couldn't even see your shoes. I didn't have any of those, but that was popular when I was a
Jinko
kid.
jeans.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Yeah. Check that out.
They're
Okay.
coming back.
Yeah.
Never heard of
My
Jinkos?
son is 18, and that's what he's wearing is those huge jeans. And I can't
Yeah.
bring myself. I realize I'm a little too big up top to like really wear some skinny jeans. Like I think there's got to be some symmetry there.
Yeah.
If you're a thin man, you can pull off
Yeah.
a pair of skinny jeans even in your 50s, 60s, whatever. But when you're a guy like me that carries your 6-pack in like one container up top
Yeah,
here,
I feel
and
you.
you squeeze into some skinny
Yeah.
jeans, it just doesn't quite.
You don't
want
want to look like a tree sprout.
I look
Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
can
my
of
shirt.
biscuits that like busted on the side of the counter, you know. We're trying to get fit into those things.
Lance hasn't weighed in. If
Hey,
I feel
well,
like
listen.
anybody could pull it, it could probably be Lance.
Yeah, I was gonna
Yes,
say if you
but-
can pull it off, I'm all for it. It's not necessarily my thing. I actually do have like a couple pairs of I would say skinny slacks that I like, but I haven't really crossed over to the skinny jeans. I mean,
You can borrow mine.
I like
you
them
have
a
on
little
some
tight.
skinny shorts tonight. I've
Yeah.
noticed.
Yeah,
Pretty
well,
tight.
it took me a while to come around on the short shorts. And
Easy,
I'm
Josh.
All I see was legs. I didn't see any shorts.
It's like a 5.5 inseam over here, boys.
Yeah.
Be careful
High
now.
and tight, just like he likes his haircut.
So yeah, if you can pull it off, more power to you.
Okay.
All right.
Great job.
Okay.
React. Topic 2. Arranged marriages.
Ooh.
Something y'all probably haven't thought about in a while.
Yeah.
Or maybe
I
ever.
just feel like I have no familiarity there, so to me it's like an automatic no. But that's just because I'm ignorant to it, I guess.
I would like to know more.
Is she hot or not?
Yeah,
I'm not
hey,
your guy.
All right, there's layers.
Well, keep in mind you're answering from two different places. Both
Right.
you getting married, which
Right.
you already are,
Right.
and your child. So I mean, the flip side of this coin is that you get to find the mate for your son and daughter.
I'm sort of in on that one.
Yeah, that's not bad if you think about it.
Yeah. Okay, there's layers to it.
Yeah.
If it's me
Right.
getting involved in arranged marriage, like Lance said, number one, I got to see like what the hotness level is. That's not the only thing, but that seems to be like, you
you're
got to
no-
be attractive.
Assuming
to
you're
the
no
person.
longer married.
Yes. Yeah. This is 20 years ago.
Physical and emotional and all,
Yeah.
on
Sorry,
every
Jessica.
level.
I'd like to
Very
see
gray
what the
area.
endowment is, because if Dad's bringing $1 million to this thing, then that probably adds a couple to the old hotness
Okay,
meter too, right?
That does change things.
Yeah. So I need to. I'm not out, but I'm not in either. But, yeah.
You kind of got
Yeah.
your toes in the water.
Yeah. I mean, if her name's Bertha and she's spending about 3 spins on the scale, I'm probably out. But yeah.
Our apologies to anyone named Bertha who's
Yeah.
having to be
And you
listening.
might be 3 spins. So yeah. Yeah. All right. So inconclusive.
Okay.
That was really out of left field.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting
Don't
that.
get comfortable, guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You just don't know what's coming.
All right.
Any other thoughts on arranged marriages before we move on?
At this point, I would like to go ahead and pick one out for my son.
Yeah.
The way that he's rolling right now, he needs his Lena.
Yeah.
We pray for her often.
Yeah. Probably put a pin in that. That's
Yeah.
probably a discussion to have about your kids and their dating life and what they bring home.
Yeah.
Ooh-wee.
I've got some questions there for Josh
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
How old is your son, Josh?
He's 18.
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Young enough to know it all.
Yeah.
Our kids aren't, the rest of our kids aren't of age to really care about boys or girls yet. So
Yeah. Emery's just.
we're getting ready to enter some scary
Yeah.
times, aren't we?
Mhm.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, she's 9. She's just gonna live at
I do
home.
not
That's her
envy
plan right
any
now.
of you.
Yeah. Whew. Yeesh.
Okay.
Just almost
React.
passed out. All right,
Topic
Emery.
3. Men riding in the passenger seat of a car while their wife is driving.
No, hard pass on that one.
I mean, I've got to be sick,
Yeah.
near death, broken bones. I don't know. Even with a broken bone, I might drive.
Mhm.
I'm out, unless it's just like a serious situation.
All right, confession. I'm usually that's a hard pass. Like, I don't like to ride with my wife in the car with her driving. Just do not. Today, 50 miles an hour on the interstate, because I had some emails I had to answer. We were driving from Hendersonville to Goodlettsville. I said, okay, I'll just ride in your car. I'll sit in the passenger side. I answered my emails in less than 5 minutes, and I regretted
The rest of the ride.
the rest. We were doing 50, and people were passing us like we were sitting still. And she's like, I'm doing 60. I'm like, now you are that I said something about it. She drives a nice car. It's got sport mode and everything. It's never seen it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to be reminded of that rule that you had. And you're
Yeah.
like, you get a little lax on it. It's good to be
Yeah.
reminded.
Yeah. I'm. Well, hopefully you're still married after that, right?
Mhm.
It's not my favorite thing, but we got a new car recently, and I feel like in that you kind of have to share, like, because they want to, she wants to drive, I want to drive, so there's a little, to give and take there.
What kind of driver is your wife?
I prefer not to get myself in trouble on the
Okay.
podcast.
I didn't
so
want to
I'm just
destroy
gonna
your
pass.
marriage,
Yeah.
but yeah. Okay.
Well,
Just to edit that out, Adam.
yeah.
Thank you for the reminder. The driving one was a little soft, so she'll forgive me on that one. Moving forward, duly noted.
Yeah.
Really noted.
You didn't
She
tell her you
might
actually.
listen.
Yeah.
She might listen to this.
I was gonna say you didn't tell her you're actually doing this, did you?
Yeah.
I
We'll keep
told
it
her.
secret.
I tried to get her to listen in the car just as I was doing my homework, and she was like, "Do we really have to?" I'm like, "No, babe, we don't. It's all good. Sorry, fellas."
Yeah. That's
Don't
okay.
worry.
Like, you're not their
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah,
anyway,
we know
'cause
our
this is
target
great.
audience.
Nobody listens to us anymore. Sometimes our wives don't even. So
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap it up. One last one. This one's a little bit tougher. You may have to go a little deeper just to think about what you might want to say.
All right.
Common sense.
It's not so common anymore.
Oh, boy, stole the words out of my mouth.
Sorry.
Hmm.
Definitely becoming less common.
Yeah.
Is that like because we're getting older? Or is it actually
Well, I don't want to turn this
reducing?
into a whole generation thing and softness and
Earmuffs. Lance.
wokeness
Yeah.
and but yeah.
He's attacking your generation, Lance.
well, I'm going to take this a different direction. Yeah, I mean, to Josh's point, I feel like it's not as common these days. But I've caught myself getting onto my kids for things that, to me, I'm like, oh, that's common sense to me. But then I'm like, you know what? They haven't lived. They haven't experienced. Kids. I get on to all the time for jumping, running in the house, and telling them to not do stupid stuff, because they don't know. It's not common sense to them yet. So sometimes I feel like I just kind of need to give them a little bit of a break and not be so hard on them. So like common sense is like it just kind of comes with age, I guess.
Is it more?
I agree with
Is it more a lack of common sense or a lack of wisdom? It might be tied together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. What you're talking about, it's like we're older and wiser, and it's probably because we've done all that
Yeah.
dumb, non-common sense stuff already. So
And then I get too upset with my kids. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what? Pull it back, Lance. Don't get that mad.
yeah, that's
But
something.
We would all. It sounds like we would all agree at some point. There's an age out there where you're expected. You either should have it or you don't.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask Josh because he's had more experience than us with older kids,
Right.
maybe college age. Do you think there's an age where you're like, you know what, this
Yeah.
this one's just not gonna get it. There's
Right.
no hope. Is it 25, 30? I don't know.
You know, scientists say that the frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until they are 25. And I have to remind myself that often. And even my wife and I, this morning in our discussion, you know, we were talking about Hannah and her new husband and all the things that, you know, challenges that they may face. And as a parent, you don't want to be overcritical of your kids and how they do life because you want them to have their own thing and their own way of doing things. And she looked at me and she goes, you can't expect him to be where you are right now, you know, in the way that he's going to treat her and the things that they're going to do. He's going to have to learn a lot of that stuff. You weren't like that to me when you were 23. And I'm, you know, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And that's where, and that is
You
another lesson.
You can drive the car.
That's another lesson in patience you have to learn because, like you said, boy, you want to just spoon. Even at my kids' age 9 and 5, you want to spoon feed them like, oh boy, I can see the forest. You can't. You're seeing trees. I'm seeing the forest here. Let me help you. I've been here, and it just some things you just have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how we learn. I mean, that's the whole point of it. We were talking about that in our parenting class this week. I don't want to jump too far ahead, but it's like, you know, allowing your kids to fail and, you know, watching them do it, knowing it's going to happen, but realizing, you know, goodness gracious, responsibility isn't genetic. It doesn't just happen. You know, you have to create opportunities for them to learn from their mistakes. And much rather them do it under my roof and in my care where I can coach them up a little bit, you know, on the back side of it, and rather than spoon feeding them and not teaching them anything in life, kick them square in the stuff, you know, when they get out of the house and don't know how to deal with it.
Well done, guys.
Yeah.
Y'all exceeded my expectations. Maybe we'll do that again.
Yeah,
down the line.
I enjoy
It's always good to
React.
exceed
Are you going to
expectations.
have like a stinger kind of music to get you react?
That's Adam's category.
Yeah.
I'm sure he can pull that off.
Brainstorm.
Yeah.
It doesn't take him long enough to edit this thing anyway.
Yeah,
so
we're so good now.
That's,
It's just,
an extra.
It's almost live radio now. So. All right. So before we get into we'll get into our man stats over here. We're going to have an old classic that we used to pull with our guest.
Oh, Kyle's bringing paper
Yeah,
out.
look at that. Well, I didn't do this. Ryan gave it to
Okay.
me. So yeah, I'm not prepared.
So
Acting like I could read the questions from here. I could.
Yeah.
correct me
Don't
if
worry,
I'm
not
wrong,
worried about cheating.
but I'm pretty sure we called this the 2-minute drill, but it only lasted for like 60 seconds. Is that
Yes.
what we did?
This
It
is,
never made sense.
Yeah, it's
Maybe
different.
we should actually make it 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Because there's 20 good questions.
It's 20 good
So
questions.
it's 20 questions in 2 minutes? Is that what I'm
And
supposed
you're
to?
rapid firing these questions. Well, first thing to your top of your mind, get it out.
We're just going to get to know you a little better.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is for us and your listeners to get to know a little better. All right. You let me know when you're ready, Lance, and I'll start.
We are ready. Josh, are you ready?
I
The
believe
2-minute
I'm ready.
drill
You look
with
ready.
Josh.
All right.
Yeah, he's born ready.
3, 2, 1, go.
Your favorite sitcom of all time.
The Office.
Oh, great answer. One of your hobbies we wouldn't know about.
Ooh, that you wouldn't know about?
Mm-hmm.
Video editing.
Good to know. Did you hear that,
That's
Adam?
good.
Yeah, good to know.
More likely.
We're
to,
looking for some free
stick
labor.
around.
yeah. More likely to be real. Bigfoot or aliens.
Aliens.
All right. We'll get into that more. If you could only listen to one band or artist for the rest of your life, who would it be?
Oof.
Yours.
Probably Bob Dylan.
Ooh, another good call. Other than Jesus, who's your favorite Bible character?
David.
Nice. What is your favorite condiment?
Ooh. Probably A1.
Oh, man. That's a good one.
Good one.
A little off the board there. What would you... Oh, excuse me. What would your family say is the most irritating thing that you do around the house?
Complain about the lights not being turned off.
Oh, man. That's Dad 101 right there.
Fitting right in, Josh.
Yeah.
Lance loves you.
We will have a 30-minute segment on that after
Might
this.
have a fifth denominator,
Yeah.
fellas.
What was your favorite cartoon growing up?
Oh gosh. I don't really have a favorite. I guess I like the Woody Woodpecker.
Oh, yeah, that's good. What is the last movie you cried in?
I do not remember.
You can pass. If you
I
need
have
to.
to pass on
Okay.
that one.
What is your favorite fast food cheeseburger?
Does a food truck count?
Yeah.
Sure.
Dream Burger, Nashville.
All right.
Never heard of
Oh my
Check
gosh,
that out.
right outside of Vinyl Taps. Best burger.
What is one of your pet peeves?
His wife driving too slow.
it.
Lazy.
Not turning the lights off.
People being mean to other people or laziness.
Yeah, there you go. That's good. Do you have an embarrassing nickname?
Nah, it's not. None
Okay.
of them are embarrassing.
What is your least favorite household chore?
Mopping.
Best Saturday Night Live cast member of all time?
Oof. Maybe Will Ferrell or Fallon.
Okay. What is your top bucket list item?
I want to go out west with my wife for like just travel, state parks and stuff, national parks rather.
Go to road trip snack?
Yeah. Oh, road trip, beef jerky.
Okay. What is your favorite podcast? This one not. This one not. You know, that's we're not
This
trying to lead you.
I enjoy a podcast called "And the Writer Is." It's a guy Ross Golan who interviews songwriters.
All right. We've got a little tidbit that you might be a sneakerhead. So, what's your favorite pair of shoes you've ever owned?
Oh, I have a pair of 1994 Jordan 1s, Chicago's, that I'm very fond of.
Man,
Who's watching those right now while you're here?
They're in my closet.
in a safe, far in
Yeah,
underground.
They are. My son took them to Belmont when he moved to this freshman.
You
And
tracked
they
him
were
down.
gone. I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "They're in my dorm room." I'm like,
He's got an
"No,
air
they're
tag on.
not.
Not
You
for
gotta
long.
bring them back."
All right, there we go. There you go.
I think we learned a
That was
lot.
great.
today.
I think I,
I
went
feel like
way
we learned.
past 2 minutes.
That's
We
okay.
did, but I was
Yeah.
enjoying it, so
Yeah.
we just kept the
Well,
clock
we're
going.
learning. Okay.
I don't know why we put 2 minutes on it anyway.
Yeah.
All right,
that was
that's
a
the
terrible
show.
man. Yeah. 2 minute drill. It went over time, so we got to cut there.
That question doesn't count.
They were good answers, so I
Yeah.
just didn't want to interrupt.
Office, great call on Office. I still watch that when it's on.
It's the
I've
one
seen-
show, no matter where you are, even in an episode, they're all one-offs. You
Yeah.
can just,
Yeah.
there's
Just
an
jump in
underlying
whenever.
story. You can
Yes.
jump in whenever. If you're having a stressful day, you don't want to think about anything. You just want to
Yep.
laugh. Like Michael Scott was going to get the job done.
That's
yeah.
mine and my wife's like just 15 minutes if we need at the end of the day to just say the kids have gone to bed, we'll just turn on the Office and sit
And
there for a
obviously, we're
minute.
talking about season 6 and prior. right?
Yes.
Yes,
Michael Scott,
after Michael
yeah.
left
Yeah.
and they jumped the
Yeah.
shark.
Yeah.
If I turn it on and it says season 8, I'm like, hard
No,
pass.
yeah, season 9 out.
No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so what are we going to hear? We want to get some, just kind of dive into the.
Who is this
Let's
guy?
give the
Kyle?
listeners what
Let's-
they want.
Yeah,
you
let's
know?
get. This, right now, he's still
Or
a little
Josh,
bit of a
yeah.
mystery man.
Mhm.
He's still of an unknown at this point. So, all right, so I think I've done a little bit of research. So, Josh, so if you were born at 5 years old, you decided to get in the ministry. At 7, you were preaching. That's pretty much how it went. Is that how it all came together for you?
Yeah, wrong.
Yeah. So just kind of tell the people a little bit, kind of, a brief synopsis of kind of your history and kind of what's led up to where you are now, I guess.
Oh my goodness! So my life in like 2 minutes or
Yeah,
less.
yeah.
Just another 2 minute.
2 minute drill. Yeah. Tell us
All right.
everything.
I was born in Nashville. My dad was a musician, professional musician. That's what he did. My mom was a nurse. Both of them hardcore hippies. Like our whole house smelled like incense and the other stuff I found out when I was in high school, coming out from under their door. Peace, love, and all the above. Like they were awesome, sweet, people. Either one of them didn't come to know the Lord until the very end of their lives. They both, unfortunately, passed away from cancer when I was very young. My dad at 3rd grade, and then my mom when she was in 8th grade. So I went from this loving, peace, love, hippie household, let your hair grow out, do whatever, it was like awesome. But then I moved in with an aunt and uncle, very different scenario. They were, young, and I don't fault them. They're 30 years old, had 2 kids of their own, just babies, and then you got 2 teenagers that just lost both their parents, and I was rebellious and angry at God and angry at the world, and so it was just a rough middle school and high school. Like I wouldn't go back to do that at all. But and unfortunately, my uncle was a little abusive, like verbally, physically, and stuff. So the day I turned 18, I moved out, and I became one of the most popular kids at Hendersonville High School. When you have your own apartment and, like, you know, and you can write your own notes to leave school whenever you want. The teachers did not like that at all. You know, you know, that there was some.
Is that the rule? If you own your own house, then you can just get to write your own notes.
Yeah, I mean,
well, there's some 15-year-old right now that's on Zillow. Like, man, I think I can.
I was literally, you know, I was my own man. I was 18 years old, and you know, unfortunately, you know, it looked real sexy from the outside, but I had to work third shift at a, you know, warehouse loading boxes and drag my rear end to school, and I was very fortunate to graduate. I did have a entrepreneurial spirit and a bit of a green thumb, and you can connect those dots to figure out how I may or may not have
and the right customer base.
Some extra popular guy.
Landscape architect.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, what is this baseball stadium light for? My closet. It's dark in there. You need to be able to see. So anyway, I went to Hendersonville, graduated by the skin of my teeth, and started to actually go to school out at Murfreesboro for a little while. And then I read Jack Kerouac's On the Road, and I had a hippie friend of mine who was like, dude, let's just go to Colorado for travel's sake. You know, there's no destination. It doesn't matter. It's all about the journey. And I did it, and it was, you know, not the smartest decision I ever made, you know. And so we got a one-way bus ticket to Boulder, Colorado, like after freshman year of college, and started traveling, met some guys in a VW bus, and it's the whole, you know, thing, like, you know, hippies busking for money and catching trains to go across the country. We had one of these guys we met had his dad worked for one of the railways, and he had maps to where he knew where these lines were going, and we would literally go, hey, y'all want to go to New Mexico? Like, all right, we'll hop on this train, and we'll sneak in a car and go. And we did that and traveled the country.
I think there's been some movies about you that I've watched.
Yeah.
And Josh, what's the time frame on this? I'm just kind of curious, like when this
1996.
is. Okay.
So I was about
the 90s,
two years out of, I went, give it a good college effort, you know, for 1 year at Murfreesboro. And like I said, I was awarded to stay. I didn't have parents, so, you know, I couldn't afford school and wasn't made aware. I mean, shouldn't say wasn't made aware. I was doing other extracurriculars that I didn't do my due diligence in figuring out all the financial aid that could have been there available to me, and didn't really have any parental guidance or, you know, support system in that. So I was just traveling and writing songs and going around the country, and came up with some pretty inventive ways to make money while we were gone. We did these curbside addresses where we would like clean up and go to these nicer neighborhoods, and like, hey, we had stencils and spray paint, and like, hey, you know, if EMS comes, they could easily locate your house, the pizza man, all this stuff, and we're just donations. And I was just, my other guys were like spitting some crazy stories to these people, and I'm just a terrible liar. And I was like, hey, this is what it is. I'm a songwriter, and I'm traveling for travel's sake, and this is how we make money. And, you know, any donation, it'll be, and your neighbor gave us $5-10, and we get enough money to buy pizza in a hotel room and move to the next town, and wrote a bunch of songs and got into a little bit of a trouble here and there, to say the least. Texas doesn't like hippies and Volkswagen vans, I'll tell you that.
It's a bit of a target right there, Texas.
Yeah, we stuck out like a sore thumb. This is where I'm taking captive of all the other thoughts and things that happened in this season of my life and making them obedient.
Yeah. So you're, I mean, there's probably there's some good times in there too, like that.
Oh yeah,
because every guy that didn't have that pass, I'm sitting here thinking, man, that sounds pretty awesome. Like, you did some things like people try to retire and like, well, I'd just like to see the country, and you did that all earlier in your life. Granted, I'm sure there was some weirdness in there and some crazy stuff, but still, there's probably some good in there too.
Yeah, I mean, we figured out you could camp in national parks for 2 weeks in one spot, and you know, you'd have to move after 14 days, and you'd have to go somewhere else. And, you know, I love the outdoors. You know, I'm a camper guy, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was before cell phones or anything, so I'd literally write letters home. And, you know, my poor grandma, what are you running from? I'm like, I'm not running from anything. I'm just, where are you going?
Besides that bear last night at Yellowstone.
I don't know. Well, there was a night where we were camping, and these two grizzly-looking dudes walked up, and, you know, getting to know their story, and turns out they were fugitives on the run, like escapees, and I didn't sleep much that
Yeah,
night.
I
I was
would
like,
imagine.
we got to get out of here.
Yeah.
And these guys are like, you never saw us. I'm like, yes, sir.
You never saw us either.
So came home, finally made my way back home, and that's when circle back up with Chet Roberts, who was on you guys' podcast.
Friend of the pod.
Yeah, friend of the pod, and we started a band and played music and did all that thing for quite a while.
So what was your catalyst to go home? Were you just sitting out at a park somewhere one day and you're like, did you have the Forrest Gump moment where you just kind of turned around and went home? Or?
After about 6 months, I got really homesick, and I realized there's no future in this. And when you're in Texas and you have a person that says, hey, I'm 19 years old, and you get pulled over, and she was not like with me, she was just with us. And there's a transient community, but turns out she was like a underage runaway, and it was like some sketchy stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, your name's not really Sunshine? Anyway, so that kind of was the catalyst to go, okay, this is not all fun and games, and I'm ready to go back home and see my grandma and my family, and so you try to make something of my life.
So you mentioned you kind of you and Chet got kind of started with a band there, and so how far does that carry you? Where do you get to with that?
Well, he and I started writing songs just like madmen about anything, stupid stuff. We had a friend that got his license. His dad was his grandfather was a sheriff, and he got a hardship of like at 14 years old. And he had this big Eldorado Cadillac, and one night we wrote a song called JJ in the Cadillac, and just silly stuff like this, just writing whatever. And we probably wrote 100 very bad songs, terrible songs, and we winded up with that same hippie guy that talked me into moving out and to Colorado for a little while and doing all the traveling thing. He's like, we should start a band, man. And I was like, yeah, sounds good. Let's do it. And I knew a guy that played guitar, and Chet, we had just Brad Cummings was on drums, and we just started this band, and it was fun. We did it for about, 5-6 years. And we had, a pretty decent following. It's like the old days where you had like mailing lists and flyers and all that jazz. And, we played like river stages downtown and opened up for Widespread Panic. And it was crazy because, we just happened to be on the festival bill before they went on. Nobody was there to see us. They could give two rips. But the way we build it is we're opening for Widespread. We made it, you know.
And that's what we told everybody.
And that's exactly what we told everybody. But as we, my wife and I had a child, but she wasn't my wife at the time. I sound like Borat. My wife. she wasn't my wife. That's a whole nother story. But that's where I met my wife, as actually a place called Low Places there in Hendersonville. Sounds like a sad country song already.
I heard it was kind of scary. Catherine, my wife, actually, so Chet's sister, for those who don't know, took me by that location 6 or 7 months ago. And it looks pretty sketchy now. I don't know what it looked like in 1996.
What's it by the way?
Where Moore's Fried Chicken is, and like Miguel's Rustic Chicken.
So the kind of the old part of Hendersonville?
The old Black Press off Walton Ferry. There's that little strip mall. G's Meats, the little butcher shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back down in that area.
So it truly is a low place.
Oh, it was low. It was under the building. But we sold that mug out. We made some good money.
Yeah. That was kind of my question, is like a band at that stage that you're doing that, is that you're making quote unquote a living doing that, I guess?
Yeah, we, of course, a living for us, it's
right.
all relative. He goes, was that place look like it's sketchy now? Like, look back at our dorm rooms that we stayed in college. We're like, yeah, this is awesome. And look down like, this place is a hole.
Yeah.
It's all relative, I think,
right.
at the time or whatever you're in. But for the time, we had a band house, like 3 of us would live in one place with drums in the living room and everything. And so it was, we were making a living, and we actually had a couple of big meetings, and one in particular with a guy that was managing Collective Soul at the time and working with Kings of Leon. And he pulls up in Porsche with the white suit and the cigar and like the cul-de-sac, balding, like.
So he's
the,
really leaning in.
Oh yeah, and he's like, "Oh, you gotta fire your bass player. Nobody wants to sleep with him." I'm like, "What in the world are you talking about?" He's been with us forever. He's an older guy, older than the rest of us, and he's probably looking back. He's probably 33,
right?
But
the old guy.
And we told the guy to take a hike, and I guess he kind of not blackballed us, but like we didn't have the best reputation. And looking back, going, that's kind of common practice. You hear that all the time. Oh, we want to sign you, not the whole band, or we just want to sign this part of the duo or whatnot. But we were a band of brothers, and we were like, we're all in this. And until kids started to come around, and I really got tired of calling my wife, hey, what's going on, babe? How you doing? I hear the kid crying in the background, and she's like, Hannah's upset. What are you doing? I'm like, we're at the bar, just like had sound check, and about to go do a little college radio station interview, and probably be home tomorrow morning, and it just got to be where I was using vacation time, some other job that I had, and it was not me. I was like, I'm ready to check out. This is not what I want.
Yeah. So you mentioned it. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of people don't know you at all. Others that maybe do know who you are probably shocked by this. That you see anybody at church in leadership, and you just think, oh man, they've had it together their entire life.
Are
so,
they interviewing one of the Hell's Angels or one of our pastors?
That's kind of what my tongue-in-cheek joke was about. Everybody thinks that like, oh, that person took the same path as Jesus.
Maybe
they
it is
were
Josh
born
Wooten we're interviewing.
Yeah, and they go right in the ministry, but
Well, I know, and I don't know your whole story, but I know somewhere in this phase of life you met Lena and you came to know the Lord.
Yes.
Tell us more about that. It's always exciting to hear that story.
Yeah. Well,
the redemption part of your
story. It started at a Sheryl Crow concert at the Opry House, and I had broken up with my girlfriend, and Lena and I had dated, and then we broke up, and I always kind of wonder where she might be, and anyway, this is real spiritual, in the beer line at the Sheryl Crow concert. Nice. And I saw her, and I was like, hey, girl, hey. And she was like, hey. And we were like, I was there with my sister. She was there with her brother. I was like, all right, there's nobody standing in the way. And one thing led to another.
You could hear soaking up the sun in the background.
Somehow my sister just dropped me off at her house after the show, and she didn't, she just left me there. And I was like, I'm sorry, I ain't got a ride. And anyway, I guess I had game that night.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's how it works.
She called me about a month later, and my roommate said, hey, Lena called and said, you need to call her no matter what time you get in. And I knew it.
That can't be.
I mean, I'll tell you, when I left that morning from her house, the thought, like, I'd never heard an audible voice outside of my own in my head ever. And the thought of, she's pregnant, as I was leaving. And I was like, what in the mess was that? No, she's not. I don't believe, I'm not receiving that. I wasn't even spiritual, but I didn't want to receive that.
How many beers did I have last night?
Exactly. And so she gave me a call. My roommate said, call her no matter what time you get in. And I knew. I was like trying to, hey, what's happening? She's like, we need to talk. I'm like, what about next Tuesday? She's like, tonight.
Let me check my calendar.
She's like, tonight. And I knew. And she told me the news, and I told her point blank, I said, I am the last person on earth you want to be the father of this child. I said, I can't even take care of myself. I'm living in a band house with, we can't hardly keep the lights on. We're in this stupid van, traveling, doing all this stuff. And she said, and I'll be honest, not a proud moment, but I was even asking her to explore other options or whatever. I was being selfish, scared. I was a kid that never had really, from the time I was in 7th grade on, never even knew what a healthy family life looked like. I was just Neanderthal, basically, wild gypsy, roaming the country and playing rock and roll. And, wait a minute, this is not in my plan. But the way that she offered me grace and love and even listened to me, and she said, well, I'm going to have this baby, and I'm going to take care of it with or without you. And I started going to all the doctor's appointments, and really thankful in hindsight that God gives you 9 months to put your head on straight and really prepare yourself. Because for her, it was reality. And for me, I was 1 foot in and 1 foot out. I was still playing music and in the band and stuff. And but the day Hannah was born changed my life. Like I had never, like I said, I grew up with both my parents dying and end up in a situation where my uncle beat me up and talked crazy, awful to me, was an alcoholic. And I thought, if God is a loving God, he didn't think a lot about me to take my parents away from me and to, me to be, I just thought I had a pretty crappy hand and I didn't have much use for God, to be honest. And I was angry and bitter. But when Hannah was born, it changed my life. She came out, her eyes just opened. The doctor carried her across the room and her head just kind of followed me the whole time. And I knew in that moment there was something else, and I wanted to figure out what it was. And it happened quick for me. I started chasing after God immediately, and I wanted to be everything that I never had. I mean, I cut my hair. I bought a minivan. I didn't quit the band right off the bat, but I was like, every dad that I looked at that I admired or whatever, we were the first in our friend group to have kids. So we were trailblazers in that sense. Nobody, had kids and didn't know what to. That's awesome. Yeah, they didn't know what to say or think.
Congratulations.
And here I sit, an empty nester at 47 with a lot of gas in the tank on the backside. But in that moment, it was tough. But I had known that I every parent or family that I admired and looked to, that was a common denominator. Back around.
Look at that.
He was saving that.
Hit bonus points.
Amazing.
But that they were involved in church and they were followers of Jesus. And we started going to every church shopping, immediately. And from that moment, I stayed at Lena's house when we came home from the hospital. And then, because Hannah was born on the 15th of December and Christmas Eve, I said, will you and Hannah come back and stay at my house? And she did, and we never spent another day apart.
That was a question I had out of that. Obviously, when you have a child, for all of us, we've been blessed to do that. It's an immediate love that you've never known before as soon as you see that child. But with your wife, what was the falling in love process like for that part of it? I'm curious because obviously you're immediately welded into this situation together, but how does that part work about falling? Obviously, you fell in love, but how did that work?
Well, Lena was even when we were dating, she was the coolest chick that I ever dated in my whole life. The one that was easy, that we would go backcountry camping and hey, do you want to get a backpack? And we'll just hike 7 miles into the Fire Gizzard or whatever, and we'll just, whatever we carry, we'll do it. And she was in, and even, not my proudest moment or immature, but she would see a girl when we were dating. She's like, look at her, she's not. I'm like, are you real? You're trying to get me to look at another girl.
Is this a trick?
I'm like, no, but she was so sweet to me, and she gave me more grace than I ever deserved.
Yeah.
Because I was not 100% there during the whole 9 months. It took me a little while trying to figure out. I still had a girlfriend, that tried to kind of come back in the picture. And Lena was so sweet and so graceful. It was unreal. It was supernatural. And she had an experience at a revival here in town that, rocked my world and really kind of led me to wanting what she had. She was at a revival one night when she found out she got pregnant. This is before she even told me. She went to this revival that was going on at this church in Hendersonville. It was called the Chapel. She went there. She was, moved, and then she went to Waffle House, and she was at Waffle House, and then as she's sitting there that night, her youth pastor walks in. She was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I was hanging out at the church, and I was at this revival." And he was like, she's like, "I didn't see you." And he goes, "Well, I was there, and the Lord told me to go to Waffle House." He goes, "I know that sounds crazy, but he told me to go to Waffle House, and here I am." And she's like,
"Wow,
I'm pregnant." And she hadn't seen him in years.
Right.
And that was the moment that she came back to Jesus.
Right.
Right there. And just the way that she offered me grace and loved me and forgave me for all the crappy stuff that I did. And I fell in love with her. She's the most awesome woman in the whole planet. It's finally God opened my eyes to see what was sitting right in front of me the whole time.
Yeah.
See your relationship with the Lord, was there a moment for you, where you're like, this is real, the Holy Spirit, I felt it for the first time, or was it a gradual?
It was a little gradual. I did experience the miracle of that child being born, and I was like, there's more to this. And I started going to a bunch of different churches, and I'll be honest, we were called it church shopping. And one church I went to, I'm not making any names, but they presented the pastor with a Rolex for 20 years of service, and I'm like got $25 in the bank.
Yeah, and they're asking you for that $20 when they pass the plate.
Right.
Yeah, and I was like, nope. And then another place, they're waving flags and raising hands and freaked me out. I'm like, I don't know about this. And
Is this church now?
I finally found a church that really spoke to us, and it was called God Why at the time, and it was a place for those seeking direction and had questions, and they were covering the topic of money. And he was like, I'd always thought that money was the root of all evil. And he was like, no, it's actually the love of money is the root of all evil. And the way they taught, and I met a pastor there by the name of Jimi Hendrix. He was a white Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, nice.
And crazy enough, he used to be married to Mama Cass of the Mamas and Papas. And I was like, wait a minute, you know the Bible, and you like got this background, and he invited Lena and I to be a part of his small group. And I was like eating it up, asking that dude questions, and he kind of really helped me. He and the pastor of that church, John McLean, really helped me at that time, grow in my faith. And God would start to speak to me in ways that I never even dreamed possible. When he really became real, when I knew that without a doubt, Lena and I were looking to buy a house. Actually, we weren't looking to buy a house. I'll be honest. Like I said, I knew that I couldn't buy a house. Lena is a big dreamer, and with God, all things are possible in Lena's world. And I was still getting there. And so we were driving around, and we would do this. Y'all ever drive around and look at houses, just dream, stuff that you couldn't afford?
We used to hit the
when
open houses like, 7,000 square feet. This looks about right. Yeah,
that's exactly what we did. We hit an open house because she knew the realtor's name, recognized the realtor. Like, I know. I'm like, all right, we'll go in, say hi. And we go in, and we had Hannah with us, who was about a year and a half, 2 years old with us, maybe 2.5 by this time. Sorry. She's a little older, two-ish. And so we're looking at the house, walking around it and making small talk. And Lena's like, what do you think? I was like, it's an awesome house. Way out of our league. Like, we can't buy a house. She's like, well, let's pray about it. I'm like, oh, okay, babe, we'll pray about it.
We're going to pray about which room we're going to buy. Try to live in.
And so I was like, all right, we'll pray about it. And then she goes, no, right here. I'm like, babe, there's other people around. Like, this is new to me.
Let's just get a cookie and go.
Exactly right. And so we got down on some shag carpet. Not got down on some shag carpet. That was later after we closed.
Yeah.
But no, we did get down. Oh, sorry. And I was worried about y'all. We got prayed on that shag carpet in the back room, and I was praying with one eye open, like other people coming in the room, like, this is so embarrassing. But she did it, and she started saying, God, if this is the house that you have for us, I pray that you would make a way to make it happen, and that you would open every door, and that if this is your will, that it would be done. And I was like, all right, sounds good. Amen. And so we're about to leave, and the little realtor was like, hey, you should make an offer.
$50.
Well, Lena, can we talk for a second? She's like, it doesn't hurt to make an offer. I'm like, whatever. Okay, we'll make it. We're going to have to talk about this when we get home. So anyway, and we're young, 24 years old. And so she says, yeah, we'll make an offer. I'm like, will we? So back in the day, and it was only I shouldn't say only, it was $115,000.
Yeah.
And for us, that was a lot of money. Now looking back, I wish I still had that house.
Yeah.
But anywho, we made an offer and went home, and we kind of had what I like to call moments of intense fellowship at my house. Y'all ever had that?
Yeah, a lot of kumbaya singing and holding hands.
I just kind of went into it a little bit. I was like, listen, this is a huge thing. Like, I understand you are a woman of faith, and I appreciate that. But a credit report is a credit report. And I had a Jeep, like repossessed 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever it was, before I bought my minivan and cut my hair and became super dad. But I was like, we can't do this. It's not going to happen. And it's embarrassing. Like, well, we can't do this. And she came out with me with those COC roots that you guys have, and speaking King James. Ye of little faith, if you have the faith of mustard seed, you could move a mountain. And she just starts quoting scripture and verse in her hand, like little finger coming at me. And I just said,
hard to argue with scripture.
I'm
especially
like
when they're
this.
firing the King James at you.
I know. And I just walked out the back door, and I'm like, you are crazy. And I went to get my car. And
Were the lights flickering when she was doing this?
No.
The house was shaking.
I got in the car and drove off, and I was like, I'm done with this one. And I looked at my tank, and I have already the lights on. I was like, I ain't got enough money or gas to be riding around, and realize that, hey, I'm in this thing with her. Like, I can't just turn around and leave. Like, I've got to come face this. And I went back in the house, and I'm like, I'm sorry, babe. I don't, this is what it is. I want to believe. I really want to believe. And I don't know if I can. And so she said, well, we're going to pray about it. And I was like, oh, here we go again.
I thought we already did that.
Yeah. And so she started praying, and she was like, Lord, whoever paperwork this stuff comes across their desk, that they would just say yes and not even know why they say yes, that things would disappear that don't need to be there. And I'm thinking, well, God, if you're going to do it, this is the way it's going to have to be done.
If God's into expunging records, I got a couple other things.
Yeah. And she's going on, and it finally happens. We get a call. They accept our offer. And I'm like, oh, gosh, we're in so much trouble. I'm like, see what you've gotten us into. And so
usually that's a joyful moment.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it was not, because the financing had to go through. And so we went.
So kind of where you at career, right? What's like going in the work life right now?
I was moonlighting as a videographer, just doing some editing stuff. It was back when computer editing from a home computer just got started, and I was doing a little, man, you tripping. Sorry, Adam's doing his interpretive dance to my story over here, tripping over chords. We had, I was doing land surveying and video work at the time. That's what I was doing. Not making a whole lot of money.
So it's not like you're full blown into a good career where the cash is rolling in. So.
No.
Yeah.
But we get a call from the finance office, and like, oh, we're ready to meet with you guys like next Thursday. And this is like less than 7 days from when we made the offer. And I'm thinking, it doesn't work like this. This is way too
So we don't even know what our house payments are yet. Yeah.
And we go to sit in with the closing office, and the lady says, I'm sorry, you asked a question. I'm going the long way around. And I apologize.
This is good. Yeah,
but it is where we end up. But so I sit down with the lady, and she's like, yeah, Mr. Wooten, we're all good. This is what your payment's going to be. It was like only $800 a month. Can you imagine having $800 a month?
Those were the good old days.
That's the good old days.
That's basically free.
And I was still sweating that, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, I said, hey, can we talk for a second? I was like, yeah, something's up here. I was like, I've had a car repossessed. My credit is not good. Like, I'm trying to save face here. Can we talk in the back room?
Did you spell my name right?
I was like, I have a cousin named Josh Wooten. I'm thinking that there's something there.
He's a doctor. I'm sure this
she looks at me and she goes, well, it's not here. It's not on. And she shows me the credit report, and I'm like, I got a 792.
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
They lost that Jeep, honey. They forgot about it.
I'm like, all of it was gone.
Yeah.
I kid you not. And I sat there, and we got the keys, and I felt like I'd robbed somebody. Like, we went and break in the house, with the keys. And I just walked around and thought, this is not real life. This can't be happening. And I told her, I was like, well, I've got band practice. If you go buy an air mattress and, bucket of KFC, I'll meet you back here after band practice, and we're staying in this mug tonight.
Yeah, before they come take it back.
Yeah, and so I did, and I went over to where Chet lived, over at the band house at the time, and I pulled into the driveway, and there was this guy blocking the driveway. Their neighbor's van or somebody's van was blocking the driveway. And I was kind of mad because I was like, I don't like to park on the street. And I was like, and I looked at his, I was grumbling a bit, and I looked at his license plate, and it said MRK 1124. I was like, these sneaky Christians hiding Bible verses on their license plates.
I'm going to look that up.
And I was like, actually, I had a Bible right there because like I said, I was digging into the Word. I was wanting, know everything I could. And I opened my Bible to Mark 11:24, and it was Jesus talking to his disciples, and it was in the red letters, and it says, therefore I tell you, anything that you ask for, believe that you have received it, and it shall be yours.
Ooh.
I sat there and just wept like a baby, like my hair right now.
Yeah, you got me.
And I was just, it was like God came right down and just patted me on the back and said, I got you. And I was like, at that moment, he was so real. Not only is he the God of the creator of the universe and all this stuff, but he wanted to help screw up Josh, have a new shot at life. And, my parents never even really owned a house. And here I am, 24 years old, have no business in the situation that I'm in, with keys to a house, a wonderful woman, a beautiful baby, a minivan, and a haircut. And I went in there to band practice, and I was like, I was on cloud nine. I freaked him out. No, I came in rolling in like a Pentecostal. I mean, I did. I was like, you guys are never going to believe this. There's a license plate out there, and I'm crying like snot bubble crying.
There's a bucket of chicken waiting on me when I get to my house.
I was like, I can't believe it. And Mark 11:24, and I got a house. And they're all like, you got a house? Like, own a house? I'm like, not even rent, man. We own it. And blah. And Brad's like, how? You got your Jeep repossessed. Like, dude. I'm like, dude, it's gone. I'm telling the whole story. And so, yeah, the rest is kind of history. You know, even when I was trying to quit smoking, God used a license plate to stop me from smoking. Craziest thing
I
in
got
the
to start
world.
watching license plates for signs, apparently.
It felt like Bruce Almighty, you know,
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, give me a sign and all this stuff going on. I was trying to fight smoking cigarettes one day and was about to just drive to an ATM to pull out $20 to go back to the gas station to buy a pack of smokes when I was trying to quit. And the license plate said, why smoke? Then I pulled up next to the red light. I'm like, who puts that on their license plate?
There went the pack of
Okay,
cigarettes out the window.
God, I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
So that's
So-
how I came to know Jesus. Like,
What?
it was real.
Well, obviously, we're all going through this whole dad thing and Christian walk and feeling like we're screwing up a lot. So I want to pick your brain about just some advice. Like for you, as you're, at this point, you've got a baby girl. Rhyme not even born yet. But at some point, they start growing up and you're becoming, like, learning how to be the best dad you can be. Like, talk about how you became like a spiritual leader for your family. Like, when did that happen?
Well,
And how?
I started volunteering at the church. Like, I got voluntold, how
Oh,
you
yeah.
get in
Been
there.
ministry.
Yep. Yep.
How your wives sign you both up for
Oh,
kids
yeah.
ministry. And I was helping in kids ministry. Our kids pastor took a sabbatical for like 6 months. And I was at this point, I had moved into full-time video work. I had my own video company. And I was doing some editing at another place, but I also had my own company. And I had one client that paid really well. Actually, I had Garth Brooks was my only client, and I was like archiving all of his footage.
I'm glad I asked this question.
If you're going to have a client, have
Crazy.
Garth Brooks.
Yeah,
as a
it's not a
client.
bad.
We almost didn't. I was working at that editing house in Nashville, and his people came in with like 16 boxes of all these different formats and mediums, from ADAT to, reel to reel, all this old stuff, mini DVDs, all these DVDs and whatnot, and they wanted it archived on DVD and on hard drives. And so it was like him and Trisha's stuff, like 16 boxes of every television performance, award show, commercial, Star Search, whatever it was all there, and it needed to be archived. And our boss just told the guy, we don't have the time or the resources to be able to do this. And I was like, can I talk to you for a second?
Yeah. Come over here.
And it's like, you're not going to let him walk out the door. I will take this myself. I assure you, I'll get it done. Not on this company time, but I'm going to figure out a way to make that work. And so he goes, if you want it, he's in my office. Go talk to him. So I was like, whew, 23-year-old Josh has gotten.
Let me walk in here and take care of
Let me
this.
see what we can do here, And I landed the deal, and so I trained my wife to be able to import footage and hired a couple of 16, 17-year-old kids to import footage and say, you can't show this anywhere. Because, there were home videos of Trisha, like, singing in the living room into a hairbrush. And not just literally into a hairbrush, but, like, old school stuff. And so I was making great money. So when this guy took a sabbatical, I was like, yeah, I can step in and help in children's ministry. And so I did it for, like, 6 months. And 6 months turned into 8 months. And we had a camp coming up. And I'm like, when's he coming back? This is fun and all. But, and
Did he buy a van and move to Colorado? Where'd he go?
I might have. And so anywho, he just went and he took a break, and the church board voted, unbeknownst to me, that I was going to be their next children's pastor. Once again, I'm like, I'm the last person on earth. I told my wife I was the last person on earth she wanted to be the father of her child. And my wife finally goes, how come everybody in this place knows that you're supposed to do this except for you? And
Well, that's like, oh.
What are your feelings? Is it doubt, fear? What are you thinking at this point?
fear, man. It was fear and doubt, but
Because
then-
as the listeners have heard, it's not like you've been trained in this. It's
No.
like, oh, you haven't seen my 8 degrees in this hanging on the wall.
I didn't go to seminary. And I told my pastor this, who had his master's or doctorate. And I was like,
I got into
hey,
this through a license plate, sir.
I only know Mark 11.
Mark 11:24. Because my uncle may have made that license plate back when I was 18 years old, not knowing what it meant. But he said, Josh, he said the disciples only followed Jesus around for 3 years, and they changed the world. He said, I don't read anywhere in Scripture that says you have to have a degree to have a calling. And God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called.
Yeah.
He goes, there is no doubt that you are called. He goes, I had somebody, another pastor, you didn't even know he's a pastor, come into your class to evaluate our curriculum. And he goes, you know what he told me? And he goes, this guy's been in ministry for 25 years and at the highest levels of the largest churches in America. And he said, the curriculum's good, but your greatest asset is the young man that you have leading that class.
Wow.
And I said, me? And he says, yeah. And
Who was doing it that day?
I mean, and I begrudgingly said yes, and I think that's kind of what worked well. Is I didn't have that background of growing up in church. I mean, I went on the weekend some with my grandma, but I was the kid that didn't quite fit in. I mean, my parents were hippies, and I had long hair, and they're like, "Oh, she's so cute." I'm like, "I'm a dude."
I'm not wearing pink.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, and so I didn't like church growing up as a kid, and so here was my clean slate to go. I want to make kids want to come to church. I want them to be something they look forward to, and not something that they have to go to like I did when I was a kid. And I just opened up with God and got a lot of great mentors and had a lot of great men in my life that had been doing it a whole lot longer than me, mentor me and took a lot of classes and courses and stuff and read a lot of books. And I was just hungry. And gosh, here I am 20 something years later going, I still don't feel like I have any business doing this in some cases. But, I think it's awesome how God can go, from using what I would 100% agree was the last person on earth Lena would have wanted to be the father of her child, to now she and I go around the country and speak at conferences to thousands of people about parenting and marriage. And that's only God can do something like that. Only God.
Yeah. Amen to that, brother.
Well, and obviously we admire you as a person, and we admire you. I admire you as a
You
father.
need to get out more.
Yeah, I do. It's only in the denominator studio and work. It's all I do. But I can see the way that you've parented your children, and obviously they're doing pretty darn well. So, and I think we've all taken, or at least part of us have taken your parenting class. I'm taking it for the second time right now, so it's pretty near and dear to my heart. But what kind of advice, and I know this is very general, but what kind of advice could you give us? A lot of the people that listen are parents of younger kids. What's a good go-to advice? One of the, and I'm asking this, and then I'm also stating something else. My favorite thing that you said was the 4 C's of parenting. After that, could you touch on that as well?
Yeah. You may go with the 4 C's first, and then
okay, sure.
Yeah, do it.
And this doesn't come from me. This is one of my mentors, Dr. Ron Hunter. But he.
Let me say Dr. Ruth.
No.
We'll cut that out.
The 4 C's of parenting are first. The first C is a caregiver. When your child is completely incompetent of caring for themselves at all. When they're babies, you change them, you feed them,
keep them alive.
They can't do anything on their own, and you are their sole caregiver. And then the next season or C is cop. Hey, don't touch your finger in that light socket. Stay away from that. You run around, writing tickets all day. Don't do that. That's what you do. And the third C is coach. And it's where you train up a child, as Scripture says. You coach them up, and then you let them go out and experience things and then come back. Well, how did that work out? What could we have done better? And you really coach. And one of the things I see in a lot of parents is they don't move from cop to coach. I mean, by the time your kids are middle school and hopefully elementary, but, I know parents of high schoolers that are still in cop mode. I'm like, no high schooler wants the cops around all the time. Like, you've got to learn to coach. And the last C is where I'm at, is the consultant phase, when you're kids move out and they just want your opinion and your money every now and then. So
in no particular order.
And
right?
they can either take it or leave it. They don't even have to abide by your,
right.
what advice you give them. So those are what I like to call the 4 C's of parenting. But, parenting advice, it is about heart connection above everything else. I really believe there are no perfect kids. Your kids are going to screw up, and it is not your fault when they screw up. A lot of parents base their success as a parent on the actions or behaviors of their child, and the only person you have any control over is yourself as a parent. Now, you are the greatest influence over your kid's life, like whether you believe it or not. I know there was many years I did not believe I had any influence on my kid. Like, it was the exact opposite. Are you kidding me? They're not listening to anything I say, and they're doing the exact opposite, But the truth is, we do have more influence, but our kids are watching us at all times. They are going to do what we do, not what we tell them to do. In other words, show is much better than tell when it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
And making that heart connection with your kids. I keep saying it over and over, like rules without relationship will equal rebellion in your kids. If you don't have relationship and all you're doing is run around telling them to enforce rules to initiate behavior modification with them, you're going to find yourself tired and exhausted and at your wits' end and no relationship with your kid. But if you have that heart connection, you know, there's nothing that can get in between that. And as a parent, you know, I know I tell this, Adam's heard me say this, but saying I'm sorry to your kids is some of the two most powerful words you can say to them. Like when we as dads, when we have to go alpha mode on them sometimes, you know, and unfortunately I've learned that yelling doesn't work. It might, you know, assert my dominance for a short season, or kids like, you know, may get them to act like I want them to for a certain season, but you will lose respect to your children if you raise your voice at them and yell at them. And so I think, you know, some of the hardest times I've had with my son, I've had to go, dude, I'm so sorry. That's not the dad I want to be. That's not the man I want to be. I messed up. I lost my cool. I hope you can forgive me. And I remember the first time I did it when he was like 4, he's looking at me like, wait a minute. Wait, you're telling me?
I don't even know you
I was
anymore.
Like, I was like, do you forgive me, Robin? He's like, I didn't know that dad was supposed to ask for forgiveness. Like, yeah, buddy, I'm a person just like you, and I don't have all the answers. I was a little boy too, and I'm you guys don't come with a book. I'm trying the best that I can, and whenever you do have those tough disciplinary times, and you have to not bring the hammer down, but you got to let them walk out some consequences for their behavior. I always pray with them. You know, even on the backside of it, as hard as it is. And sometimes my wife had to remind me, did you pray with him? Well, no, I just got in his stuff.
Yeah.
Let him know what I'm supposed to do.
I whooped him, but I forgot to pray with him.
Yeah. And I think that it's, you know, we talked about this last week, you know, everybody, it's common to revert to that verse of, you know, spare the rod and spoil the child.
Yeah.
But, you know, the shepherd's staff, the rod was used to comfort. And protect the sheep, not to whip the sheep into submission. And you get a lot more, you get a lot further with your kids, making that heart connection and connecting with them and understanding them, you know, telling them, I don't expect you to be perfect. You know, there's all kinds of things that are going to mess up, but having that relationship, you know, not being their friend, because my role is to not be their friend. I'm their dad. But I do want to have relationship, because without it, you know, you're going to have a kid that when they turn 18, they're gone because they don't want to be with their parents. And I want to be the kind of house of my kids. Still, my daughter will call me up at 22. Hey, what are y'all doing for dinner? Let's go hang out.
Yeah, open door policy.
Yeah.
And something you said just really resonated with me, because I have a 9-year-old daughter. And right now, she's in 3rd grade. Right now, the big push in the public school system is this reading comprehension having to be a certain level to pass to the 4th grade. It's chaotic right now. So there's a ton of stress on teachers, ton of stress on parents to do these practice tests, keep doing these drills. And our daughter's very smart. She's a straight A student, but we've been in the grind of, hey, we got to make sure our reading efficiency is good. We've got to get past the 4th grade. And I'm the first to admit and raise my hand. My wife and I, especially myself, we got tunnel vision of like, hey, the only way I know to attack a problem, we got to grind. I'm a grinder. That's what I do. When I can't figure out something, I grind on it. And I've always been like that. And I could tell, like, in the last couple of weeks, like, our daughter, she was miserable going to school. She was just upset a lot. And kind of, when she gets upset, she pulls back and gets kind of in her own head a little bit and just gets very quiet. So this is probably last week or in the last 2 weeks. I could tell she was really upset. And I went to her room and I was like, what's going on? And she's, nothing, I'm fine. You know, gives me that 2 or 3 times. I kind of close the door. I'm like, get down and sit with her. I'm like, I need you to talk to me because I know something's bothering you, and it's my job to find out if I can help you. And she just breaks down in tears, and she says, I just feel like I'm expected to be perfect right now. And that with school, you and Mommy are really trying to make sure that I get every answer right. And it was like this aha moment from God and from my 9-year-old daughter of like, oh my gosh. And I immediately, you know, I thank the Lord I found some words and like, look, we don't ever expect you to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I've messed up today. And had that whole conversation. And, man, since then I can really say that it seems like we still have all the stressful stuff going on. She's still 9 years old trying to cope with all that. But, man, it's been a lot better since then. And that was a real aha moment for me. So when you said that about perfection, that is a relevant statement for me right now in my learning experience as a dad. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, I also wanted to share something. Call it a poorly named segment called Dad Dumps. It's kind of what we like to do on the show to kind of share our successes.
We're not good at naming stuff, Josh.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect name.
We like to share our
You know your audience.
successes and failures and
Yeah.
funny moments that we have as dads and husbands and all that. And you touched on this in the interview with us, but you had kind of worded a little bit differently when I watched the Northfield interview. You basically said that, when your daughter was born, it was like you were witnessing a miracle, and that you saw, Jesus in your daughter, and that she allowed you so much grace. And I almost teared up a little bit when I was driving down the road, listening to it, because, just this past week, well, first off, I'd like to nominate myself for Husband of the Year because I allowed I was okay with my wife taking she went on a girls trip to Hawaii for 5 days, left me with 3 kids. So
Under 6, by the way.
Under 6, yeah, for 5 days.
You've moved up in the line of heaven right now.
So yeah, I'm a saint. Okay, what can I say?
Look at that light shining off his forehead. You can see it right now.
Goodness
So
gracious, you need
about
some neck workouts for all the jewels
you.
in your crown. My man.
but in any event, so we're like 3-4 days into her being away, and things are going pretty good. But I'm one of these people that, like, I'm cool, I'm calm until I'm not. Like it just kind of boils up. And
either on or off.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, it just boiled up this night, and the kids I got tired of always getting on to them, and I was upset that the closet was such a mess because I was the one that they had pulled some stuff out of the closet. They're doing Play-Doh or whatever, and I went to go put some toys back up, and I just realized this closet's a mess. I've got to reorganize the whole thing. It's going to take so much time, and it got to me. And so, of course, I did the very mature thing, and I decided I was going to kick over some of the toys.
Give you something else.
So
to do.
I got pissed, and I poorly demonstrated in front of my kids what not to do, and they just kind of just kind of kept their distance from Dad.
Where's Mom at?
Yeah. And so I had my little hissy fit, and then I just kind of went back, and I just had to isolate myself for like maybe 20-30 minutes. I just kind of laid down in bed, and I was like, guys, I need a minute, just let Daddy have some time to himself. And so I came out later to clean up the mess that I had made, and my 6-year-old son Jackson comes over to me, and he goes, Daddy, I can help you with that. Or he may have just asked, he's like, hey, can I help you with that, Daddy? And I was like, I can't believe this kid. Like, I don't deserve this right now. Like, he's actually coming over, volunteering to help clean up the mess that I made. And I'm like, if that's not seeing Jesus in my own kid, I don't know what is. Mm-hmm. So when I heard you talk about that, that's like instantly like what hit home with me, just thinking about how my son reacted to me acting like a fool, basically. So I don't know. Just thank you for that. But that was just a learning moment as a dad,
Yeah, man.
I was going to say too, really quick. One of the other things that I got off the class, you said they'll learn and model your behavior, how you respond to crisis. They'll respond the same way. That really affected me too. And I think it's kind of along the lines you're talking about. It's like those are things that they will model for the rest of their life. They saw Dad freak out about something. That means I got to freak out about something. Yeah. Or it's okay to flip out and cuss and kick and punch somebody. I guess that's the way it goes. But.
Yeah, it's unfortunately true in my case many times. But, I think as we get older and we get mature and we realize these things, we need to be reminded. And that's what's cool about even podcasts like this. You guys are being able to encourage other dudes and other dads and hey, there are no such thing as perfect parents. But, it's about, getting back up every day and going, okay, what can I do to better myself and what can I do to fix that? Because we're dudes, we like to fix things. And so I think it's a great to even have this conversation. Yeah. It's always good to remind myself, it's wild how you can have 2 kids in the same house raised under the same rules and be so completely different.
Oh gosh, amen to that, brother.
That's a whole nother episode.
Well, you always, you think about the old man. We always talked about like, he's so set in his ways, get off my lawn type of guy. And I think as we get older, like I find myself feeling like that. Like,
oh yeah, I'm yelling at the clouds all the time.
Those mistakes you make with your kids that you repeat, maybe for a period of time, then you look back and you're like, man, how long has it been? Can I change, And so I don't know, I just opened up to the group, like, how do y'all deal with that? Like, I don't know if it's the maybe the guilt aspect of some things that maybe you regret doing, but then how do you change course? Like, how do you not make the past and do something different going forward?
Well, just we'll let the expert weigh in on that, and the non-expert here in me, just for me, I'm stubborn to learn things on my own. First of all, let me say that is part of the beauty in parenting, is you never quit learning either. Mm-hmm. It's just like Josh. There's no book that you get for anybody that doesn't have kids yet or is about to have a kid. It's not like when you get an owner's manual when you buy a new car. They literally say, hey, don't trip over anything while you're holding the baby, and good luck. I mean, that's pretty much what you get when you get. And it's the beauty in the whole thing is, I guess, the beauty is really when you realize that you're learning. Like for me, that was an aha moment, and I learned something of like, holy crap, my daughter, who doesn't not have the wisdom really to know what she was saying in that moment. She was just telling me how she was feeling, but it wasn't wisdom for her in that moment. It was for me. Yeah. And that was like Lance is saying, that's through Christ. He's like, the words are put in her mouth for me. So that's the beauty of it is as you're learning as your kids are learning, you're learning too. So, but for me, I've prayed about that moment a lot since then in the last couple of weeks. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just because it's still a fresh wound. I don't know if that's the right term, but I feel like through prayer that I have had a lot more patience and a lot different approach with her the last couple of weeks. I've seen like she's not as tough as I am. I mean, for me, like I go back to the grinder, I might need Ryan to tell me like, man, just get your head up and get your butt in gear. That works for me. That's probably what's going to work for my son. He's the same way. Mm-hmm. But for her, she's not like that. Yeah. She needs the support and needs to feel like I don't have the expectations set that are unattainable for her. So I feel like I've gotten some wisdom through praying about it, and with that's come some patience to kind of where I would normally trigger on something. Oh, you missed 5 on this. How are you not understanding that that's not the right answer? Instead, it's like, well, take me through your process of why you think that's right. So that's sort of, for me, what seemed to work the last couple of weeks. So.
Pretty impressive, Binkley.
Yeah, well, stay tuned.
Don't give your,
yeah, I've got a lot more mistakes to make. Yeah.
That thought, there was a book that we studied as a staff, and then we did our whole, our church went through it, and there was actually a component for kids. The original book was called I Said This, You Heard That. And it's about communication and the different temperaments and colors that go along with the different temperaments. And they had another offshoot of that, a kid's study called How to Understand Your Kids' Wiring. And that is a book that I wish I had when I was starting out. Because like you, I would talk to my son the way I think that he needs to hear it, but not understanding what he really needed from me. And he's an introvert, and we're real extroverts. And it really rocked me and convicted me. And now I'm, the good thing is it's never too late, even if they are older, and I've had to sit him down and go, dude, I've screwed up a lot. Sometimes I didn't abide by my own wisdom that I share. I tell parents all the time, and you guys see it, that mom and dad's trying to prepare the path out in front of their kids and get all the obstacles out of the way of their life and making sure they got smooth sailing. And our job as parents is not to prepare the path for our kid, but to prepare our kid for the path, because we are not always going to be there to be able to clear out all the obstacles. And we need to strengthen them and equip them to be able to face whatever life is going to throw at them. And for Ryman's sake, he's in the music business, and he had, to be honest, he didn't have to pay any dues. He had a record deal when he's like 15 years old and just had a tractor trailer truck show up at the house with an entire studio from his record label so he could have a studio at home, and he didn't have to work for any of it. And, it's just like, basically, here's your recording budget, pick your producer, videos, and all this stuff, and no dues to pay. And there's people that move to this town and spend 10 years before they get a meeting with one of the writers he was working with. And but in that, now that he's 18, he wanted to go to Belmont, and I tried to talk him out of it. I don't think I'm the only dad in the world trying to talk a kid out of going to college. Like, no, you don't need it. He wanted the experience, and he went, and his record label dropped him because, they'd been waiting on him to finish school for 3 years and paying all this money, and then he was like, I'm going to school for 4 years, y'all. I can still do this, and they're like, you're not committed, and so he lost it, and now all of a sudden he kind of went back, and he's living by himself in East Nashville. He quit Belmont real quick and, taking other meetings, and still things are really happening and going well. And I feel confident he'll get another deal in the future, but it's kind of nice that he's having to pay dues now.
Yeah.
But as a dad, now that he's on his own, I show up at his house and he's like, how do I fix this toilet? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, I never showed the kid how to fix a toilet. Like, I just did it. It's like just the little stuff. And
Right,
you wonder,
yeah, right.
I'm at the season going, have I done enough?
Yeah.
To set him out because
Man.
he had just so much just given to him.
I'm glad to hear you say that because that's something I struggle with. Of like, no, just let me have it. I'll fix it.
Yep.
I'm like, God, I missed such a moment there to like sit down with
difficult
him
balance.
and try to figure out how to put his toy back together.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll say this is going to sound like a brag. It's not. It's basically a story of how many missed opportunities I've had. But Reed will be 13 in March, and it was, I guess, 2 weekends ago. I was like, you know what? The windshield wipers haven't been changed in like 2 years. No telling what the air filters look like. The old cabin air filter has never been changed.
Y'all are breathing mold for a year
And
now.
so I called Rita. It was just one of those moments. I think the Lord was like speaking to me, like, we're sitting around on a Saturday doing nothing. He's like, just take this moment. And I told Rita, I was like, hey, buddy, I want you to run a few errands. And he's immediately like, what? And I'm like,
Do I have to, Dad?
yeah. And I knew what I was getting ready to say was not going to make it worse. Like, okay, Dad, let me jump in the car. And so I was like, hey, we're gonna do some work on the car. I want you to actually go to the auto parts store with me. I want you to figure out where the parts are on the shelf. He's like, okay. And I tell you what, he had an amazing time.
Yeah.
He loved it, and it made him feel like good, like he learned something. He did it. I helped him a little bit, but I just sat back there and I felt that feeling of like pride, like, hey, Lord, thank you for moving me out of the
Right.
way and giving me just a little small idea. But at the same time, like what y'all were just saying, it's like reminding myself to take more of those opportunities.
Yeah, well, that's
It
what.
was just as good for me as it was for him. Probably better
Yeah.
for me than him.
If he gets too big a head, send him in for blinker fluid.
Yeah. You walk around for 30 minutes.
We all know reasons are lacking for confidence. So.
Exactly right.
He'll come out with something he
That
thinks is
may
blinker
be why I
fluid.
said it.
Yeah.
But it's like there aren't many scriptures on parenting directly, but Deuteronomy 6 through 9, I believe it is. It says impress these truths upon your children. Talk about them as you walk along the road, when you lie down, and when you get up. And it's about, in other words, as you do life. Find ways to find teachable moments, and that's what the trick in parenting is to kind of have your God goggles on, recognizing, okay, when can I teach? Because it happens so fast. A friend of mine's a songwriter, Casey Bethard, and you talk about trying to figure out what's going on with your kid's life. They're not usually going to tell you, hey, how was your day? Good. What'd you learn? Nothing.
Right.
You talk about church, Jesus. What else? God. But he and we play a little game called Mad, Sad, Glad at my house just to get people talking at the table. Kids won't tell you about how rough their day was. One thing made you mad, sad, glad. You guys know it. Y'all had it in an episode. But had a buddy of mine that would play catch with his son. They're both all football players. One of them actually is playing backup quarterback at the Jacksonville Jaguars, C.J. Bethard.
Oh, yeah.
But his dad, Casey's a songwriter, a friend of mine. He said he playing catch with the boys, and he goes, they think we're just playing catch, but that's how I get to know what's going on in their world, you know. And he went to actually write that idea one day with somebody, and he goes, it just didn't sing as well, but he turned out writing a song by Trace Atkins called She Thinks We're Just Fishing. And that's where that whole song came from, is that story of him playing catch with his boys, but that's how he would find out where they talk about girls. They talk about school. They talk, and he's like, they just think we're playing catch. And that's kind of where that song came from.
Ooh, I'm putting that one in the holster. My son loves to throw football. Yeah, that's a good one to have right there.
I got one more just thought that's been just wrestling around in my brain for a couple of weeks off and on. Josh, I'm curious your take on it because I feel like it's something that I haven't learned. I've had moments where I feel like I see it and experience it, but I haven't been able to sustain it. And it's the thought of like seeing your children as God's children, like those times, like even, you know, we all, I think the stigma is like moms worry more than dads. And that may be true. I don't know, but I know dads worry quite a bit. We just don't let as many people know that we're worried.
Yeah, we internalize pretty well.
And so I feel like in the last year, I've had several moments where I've hit, maybe it's a day or maybe a week, where I'm like, God's got Reed, you know, he's got Grant. I can't screw it up, you know, he's going to take them wherever he wants them. But how do you, I don't know, Josh, have you ever found a way for you where you've been able to just sit in that pocket of just trusting the Lord has control of your kids?
Well, you got to get real right. Now,
We were having a good time, man.
Well, you know, my daughter's moral compass is stronger than anybody's I know. Like that chick, you look at her wrong, and she wanted to do the right thing at all costs and please God with her life. Like she waited till she was married. You know, didn't have her first kiss till almost college. Sorry, hand dog, putting all your business out here.
Yeah.
You'll never hear this. But she, you know, even like today, she loves to lead worship. Like, I mean, she made me look like a much better dad than I ever was. Now, my son, he's got a lot of me in him. And, you know,
Paying
like
for
I
that.
said,
Paying for that.
I'm paying
raising.
for all of it. And
Yeah.
I'll be honest, you know, gosh, as much as I wanted to support him in his desire to be a musical artist, you know, part of me goes, oh my gosh, could you do anything else under the sun except for this? And then you wind up having to be good. You know, it's like, you know,
Why do you have talent,
can't
son?
you just be like, you know, not good and do something else, you know, because it was hard. I mean, he was on a hip hop label out of Brooklyn. Same guy that signed Nipsey Hussle signed rhyming. Like, I'm walking in the office and they all have to, like, it smells like they've been wrestling skunks in there. and they're like, you know, hey, everybody, we got a minor in the house, rhyming's in there. And, like, you know, they try to clean it all up for us, but going, this industry is, you know, not the most wholesome thing in the world. And he's not a Christian artist. He's a pop artist who has his own way of doing things, and I don't like to dictate his art or tell him what he can and can't do. And he's 18 years old right now, and I can't. And had a little more leeway of that when he was under my roof. But even I have to give him to God every single morning. I mean, I pray for Ryman on my face every single morning. God, help him to learn to hate sin. You know, and this is no secret. You know, and I'm not putting his business out. He's not doing anything that any other 18-year-old under the sun, most of them, you know, experiment and try to do.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and I just, that's my prayer. God, you love him as more than I do, as much as I love him, but it worries the mess out of me when I go, man, you know, God was looking out for me when I wasn't looking out for myself. Not everybody's Lena. You know, if you go out and be promiscuous, you know, you might get a crazy girl pregnant that, you know, you don't want to bring home to mama, or you don't know what you're going to end up in.
Yeah.
I was almost good right up till the end. Can we edit this part?
the whole thing.
No, but the truth is, you know, I just have to go. And I told him, I was like, dude, I want you to have fun. I'm not like a fun sucker, but I don't want you to have so much fun it affects the rest of your life. Like, you got to listen to me and mom. Like, we're trying to help you. And it's tough because as much as you want to do, it's just like God and us. You know, we mess up. He won't, you know, we're going to get in his way and be our own worst enemies. And I just pray. I wish I had wisdom for you and say, I don't worry, but I do. But I remember that scripture says, don't worry about anything, but pray about everything, basically. You know, in Philippians 4:13, not 4:13, I forget 6:9. I don't know what it is. I'll be honest.
We'll get
I
our
didn't go to
research
school
staff.
for that.
It's in there. Yeah.
We'll
It's
get a
in
research
there.
staff on that.
Yeah.
But by prayer and petition, present your request to God and thanksgiving, and then He will hear your prayers. And guard your heart guard your heart in Christ Jesus, and the peace that passes all understanding will be with you. Something like that is what it talks about, and not just stressing out, you know. But I do. It's a constant just handing Him over, going, God, this battle is yours. You can want it all day long, but
Yeah, and
He's
it's
gotta want
Well,
for
I think your answer you apologize for, but I think it's great because I think we all tend to get to that point where we feel alone or like somebody else has it figured out, but we're all just working our way through this thing called life and being a dad and making a lot of mistakes, and it's just nice. It's always good to hear that somebody else doesn't have it figured out. And I think that's one of the biggest ways Satan is tricking us these days, just thinking, hey, that family over there, man,
They got it together. They are
golly,
perfect.
their kids are perfect. They're perfect.
What's
what a
wrong
great
with you?
dad.
Yeah.
He can throw a perfect spiral. I mean, everything's going good for that family.
Well, but the thing is, and even in the midst of all that, we have a heart connection. Like he'll call me, and he knows if he's in trouble, he can call me, and I'm not gonna judge him or do the getting his business like overboard. But and I think that's the way our Heavenly Father wants us to be. Like when we're in trouble, we should want to run to God and not try to hide from Him. And so often I grew up thinking when I screwed up, I'm gonna hide from and try to hide it and get away from
Pull
it.
the old Adam and Eve and hide in the bushes.
Yeah, exactly.
He'll
and
never
and
find
so
me
I
in
just
here.
want to be the one he wants to come to when the wheels on the bus fall off, and I hope that that it doesn't happen. But that's out of my control.
Something that's hard for us to understand as parents is that journey he's on, or my daughter's on, or any of our kids are on, is not our journey. Are we custodians of that? Up to a certain point, yes. But the fact is, whatever your son or my daughter may be going through is shaping their life and their character how God wants it to be, not how we want it to be. And your son may take a path and end up being the next Billy Graham. You don't know that. You have no idea.
My devotional last week said that Michael W. Smith moved to Nashville and was actually he was drinking in bars, singing at bars at age 21, and happened to land a gig playing piano with Amy Grant and turned his life around. I'm like, all right. Michael's got 3 years to go to turn into Michael W. Smith. Not that he's going to, I don't know if he's going to do that.
Got
but
the
it's one of
countdown
those
on, but that's the thing we struggle with so much is to guide our kids. But the fact is everything that's happening to them is being used. If you have the faith and believe that, it's all being used to shape whatever God has planned for them. I mean, you look, like you said, you look at the disciples in the Bible, that was not the pick of the litter. If you'd have went and said, okay, this is the guys that God's going to use to this, you look at Peter. This is the man I'm going to build my church on. We're like, Peter?
Drafted like the Browns.
Yeah, it's like, what? yeah. He's like a 4-string fisherman, and he's
Sorry, all you Cleveland fans
yeah,
out there.
yeah. Well, they're used to it. I mean,
The
that's
fourth
what I
string fisherman.
He's
That's the name of this episode.
Yeah. It's like, this guy's denied you like 3 times, and but that was literally the guy that was like, well, okay, that's the guy he built his church on, and it's just, it is so hard to see that when you're trying to guide your kids, and I'm the custodian of their journey, but it's not mine; it's theirs. And they're finding their life, and they'll find what they're supposed to be. And I want to do my best job and give them the tools I can to do that. I'm sure we'll lean on your wisdom a lot because you're in it right now a lot with that stuff. But you can dread and worry about that stuff as much as you want. But the fact is, like you said, you're a perfect example of man coming out of the darkness. Like, there's a lot of people wouldn't give you a nickel's chance of making anything out of your life, and here you are giving a bunch of boneheads some advice of how to try to spiritually raise your kids. But man, it's a long journey, but like I said, it's a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
Josh, one more thing before I think we'll wrap it up. But one thing you said else in your class is no one is more qualified to raise your kids than you. That also resonated with me. It's like much of what we're talking about is like, you think, well, these kids can't depend on me because I'm screwed up as well. But as you said, God picked you to be their parents. Nobody else but you. So he felt like you were qualified to do it. So therefore you are. So I think we learned a lot, man. I hope the people listening learned a lot too. And man, we appreciate you being here. Any other words of wisdom you want to drop on us before you head out the door?
I don't have any wisdom, man.
And you don't have to head out the door. You're welcome to make yourself at home. Brian brought cookies over there.
I'm trying to not do sugar. I'm the fattest guy at the table who doesn't eat sugar. Looking at Lance over here, I'm like, goodness gracious.
Don't compare yourself to Lance.
He's stretching, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah,
He does that.
Yeah. I'm sucking in my gut over
He
here.
does that on purpose.
What was it John Maxwell said? Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape. When it comes to I think that's solid wisdom.
Yeah,
you
there's
can
your wisdom.
live by.
Well,
Josh,
man, yeah. Thanks so much for doing this. It was a blast for us.
Thank you guys for having me. This is way too much fun for a Tuesday night.
Yeah, let's not wait 2.5 more years.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.